Hello and welcome to another Talent Hacks webinar. This is our third webinar in the 2025 series. Today we will be talking about building revenue resilience. We will be joined by Paris, Michael, and Pavlos, and we'll get to that in just a bit. But just in case there are any newcomers here today, I wanted to reintroduce Talent Hacks, a learning and development company that has been basically obsessed with one fact, and that is that corporate training sucks. And the way we're trying to deal with this is basically through practical, relevant, and fun advice that we call hacks, which brings immediate impact to both your teams and your organizations. The way we do this is through workshops, keynotes, courses, both online and offline, experiences of variety, and academies to your choice. We have a team of 6. You will get to meet some of them today. Matthias, Victoria, Alex, Paris, myself, and Dino. We're all in the chat if you have any questions, but you will also get a very hands-on approach with Paris, as well as Pavlo, who is our guest, and Michael. Before we get going, I wanted to just kind of inform you, if you're not already aware of our webinars, that we have monthly webinars happening. Our May webinar will be on boosting crew performance with AI, focusing on a collaboration with the maritime industry. Victoria will basically drop that in the chat right now for you. Thank you very much, Victoria. So take a minute to enroll if you are interested. For anyone watching the recording, by the way, and you're afraid you're not seeing the link, don't worry, we have one of our final slides with a QR code to make it easy for your lives as well. So without any further ado, let's get into today's webinar, and I will leave that to our CEO, Paris Thomas. Paris, on to you.
Hello, hi everybody, and welcome to our webinar. Thank you very much for joining. And today is a special one, very near and dear to my heart, because I have 2 folks here, right there, that I know for a very long time. I'll introduce them to you in just a moment. But let's talk about the one key word, the buzzword of today that we're going to be addressing, and that word is that one, resilience. I think in 2024, it must have been the biggest buzzword everybody has seen on LinkedIn, right? And somehow it just, the feeling you get out there in the world is that this word is important because it's not the greatest out there. And so being resilient is important. And because I don't like buzzwords, I always like to demystify them in some simple way. And if you're my age at least, then you might know the Chapawamba song that says, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You're never going to keep me down. That's the definition of resilience. How do you create resilience, and how do you do that for your revenue? It's an amazing topic, and I'm very proud to have Pavlos Loizou, who is the CEO of AskWire, and I'll introduce him a bit more, and he'll get a chance to also speak a bit about his background. But he's a person I've known for a very long time, as we grew up together. And this is very special to me because I also sit on the board of his company, AskWire, and we asked Pavlos, as the CEO of this company, to come here today to be, well, undressed, metaphorically speaking, as we're going to put his business and his business model to the test. Is it resilient enough? Does it have any points of improvement? Who's going to talk about that? Well, the expert in the room, Michael Wilkins, the person who I've been collaborating with, meeting with on a frequent basis over the last decade, talking about strategy, innovation, and so many incredible journeys that we've been on together. But he stumbled upon something about 1.5 years ago that he started to create some thought leadership about, and I can tell you, it has gone viral. He comes to us from Denmark, and in Denmark, this thing is selling like hotcakes because there's a lot of interesting things that are happening when you take the moment to strategize at the business model level about your revenues and how to make them more solid to help you overcome whatever storm comes your way. So Michael is not only joining the webinar as a guest, he's actually joining in person. Michael, join me on stage. There we go. So I'm gonna, actually you don't need this right now. Okay. So what we'll do is I'm gonna give you a couple of minutes to give an introduction to yourself. I know this guy is on more boards than I have fingers, and he chairs the majority of those. There's a powerhouse of information here, and Michael is visiting as we meet 2-3 times a year with a group of fellow executive advisors on the topic of innovation. We thought you know what? Let's do a webinar together and actually put this out there, the whole revenue resilience. So first, I'll pass it to you for a quick intro, and then we'll introduce Pavlos as well.
Yeah.
Over to you.
So, short bio. My background is in strategy and innovation consulting for the last 20 plus years. I have been the director of an IT company for 8 years, so I have a bit of background in IT and software development also. And if you look at my work day to day, like Paris just mentioned, part of it is that I'm on the board of 12 companies. And another part is that I do strategy development for especially SME companies, because that's where I can make a big difference, and that's where my heart is, so to speak. I also do corporate innovation projects, but less so. So that's my background.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Michael. And so there's going to be a lot of interchange today. Let's bring the next guest over to our webinar, and that is CEO of AskWire, Pavlos Loizou. Pablo, great to see you again. Great to have you here. Please, a quick little introduction about you.
Sure. So I've been in real estate for the past 2 decades, and AskWire is a real estate data analytics company trusted by the Cypriot, Greek, and Romanian governments, by systemic banks and insurers. And basically, over the last 20 years, we've realized that given that each and every property is different, the only way to solve that problem is that by having accurate and detailed information about every property out there. So using the EU's Open Data Directive, we collect data mainly from government sources. We bring them all together to build the property profile of each and every property across the Balkans. And then on that, we have developed 3 different platforms, one that deals with analyzing the real estate market, another one that deals with the environmental risks, very useful obviously for insurers and for ESG reporting. And then finally, the integration of your data with ours in what we call edge. How do we help you manipulate and generate leads using your own and our data combined?
And it looks like, Pablo, you're at the cusp of we've always been talking about data is the new oil. And now you're integrating that with AI to produce some incredible insights. Your company has been recently crowdfunding, has received a lot of traction. And although a startup, it seems like it's no longer in that state and that you're at the scale up mode. So we wish you all the best success in what happens with AskWire and the value that you add to these markets. But at the same time, let's see if we can contribute to that success today by infusing some knowledge from Michael Wilkins on resilience as a strategy. And so thank you very much, Pavlos. I'll now take a moment to transfer over to Michael so he can actually walk us through resilience as a strategy. Now, before we get there, I just want to, maybe something I omitted to say. There's 3 advisors in the room. Myself and Michael, we're going to be helping Pavlos in different ways. But there's this 3rd advisor in the room that you haven't heard from yet. And that is Michael's AI twin. So in a moment, once Michael presents resilience as a strategy, I will introduce you to Rapid Visual, which is the AI modeling tool that we've built to be able to actually give that advice, but not just any advice. It's the advice that Michael has trained it to give. So what we'll do is a bit of a face-off. Who's going to give the better advice? Michael or his twin? And we'll let Pavlos decide. So hold on for that. Let's first create some context. Let's talk about resilience as a strategy. Over to you, Michael.
Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about my great passion, which is resilience as a strategy. Especially in these uncertain times, I think it's a very important topic. So when I talk resilience, it's important to note that I talk revenue resilience. Resilience have many different phases, and especially over the last years, resilience come into a lot of combination of words. But I'm talking revenue resilience. That means predictability in revenue. I think that is one of the driving forces of predictability in running a business. So where does that come from? Going back to 2023, it's October. We are in the boardroom. We have to approve the budget for the next year. The company is CAD design form. They do computer-generated images like the one you can see on your screen right now. So that's a business. It's very much a project business. So you will have times when you have a lot of projects going on, and you will have times where you have less projects. So if we look back at 23, Q1 was very, very good, very, very busy. getting resources on board, delivering, very successful. Suddenly in Q2, things start to dampen a little bit. We lose some projects, and we have we are in this situation, should we cut back on the organization or should we wait? And we wait and we wait and we wait, and then we can't wait anymore, and then we make some decisions, and then suddenly the business start booming again. So a lot of projects companies work like that. You'll be very busy, and then at some point you will have less to do. So you have to man up and man down all the time. It's very bad for the organization. It's bad for the mood in the organization. It creates insecurity around employees. So how can we avoid this? That's the one question. Another question is, we're looking into the next year, and what is our top line going to be? And the management is proposing a top line which is grown, and the market looks a bit shady. So I'm like, why should we go for growth in a difficult market? And they say, well, we don't want to waste a year. And then I say the word, well, revenue growth is not the only way to create value. And people become quiet and say, okay, you'll have to explain that. How can we create value and make the company more valuable without growing? And I've written an article about this in 2024. It's in a newspaper called Berlingske. They have a list of the biggest companies in Denmark, and they call it the Gold 1000 list. And the Gold 1000 signifies that number one on the list is the most valuable one, but it's not necessarily. Here, the number one on the list is a company called Maersk. Many of you probably heard about it. They are within shipping. They do 350 billion Danish, which is approximately 50 billion euros in annual revenue in 23. Number 7 on the list, so it's actually quite a ways down, is Novo Nordisk. They do pharma. A lot of people know it for insulin at diabetics, but also for Wegovy. And they're only at 222 billion, so significantly smaller company. But if you look at the market value of these two companies, you'll find the market value of Maersk is 196 billion, whereas the market value of Novo Nordisk, a significantly smaller company, is 4,000 billion. And why is that? Why can a smaller company be worth so much more? That's because not all revenue is worth the same. So Novo has a revenue which is 20 times higher than market value, which is 20 times higher. So that means that Novo Nordisk, they have more resilience in their revenues, because when people start using diabetes medicines, they're going to use it for the rest of their lives. When they build new factories, they have contracts for 10, 15 years, so it's a very predictable business. Whereas Maersk, they have to go out and sell these shipping orders all the time. They have to fill the ships. So they start from zero, not zero, but relatively low every single year. And that's a big, big difference. So not all revenue is worth the same. So how do we split it up? We decide in CAD design form, we want to create a strategy around this resilience. And the first thing to do is actually go in and divide the revenue into categories. And we define 3 categories. Category 1 is what we call fixed revenue. In 2023, it was 2% of the revenue in CAD design form. It's committed business, it's licensed, it's retainers. Category 2 is what we call predictable revenue. It's a revenue where we have some insights. We don't have formal commitments, but we have some forecasts. And the last one is variable revenue. That's where we have no idea. We have to go out and sell it to either existing customers or to new customers. So this is the composition of revenue in 2023. Why it's so important to make this distinction between revenue is because they have different value. And if you sell a company, what you do is actually you take this fixed revenue and you add a multiple to it. So you take the profit from the revenue, add a multiple. And the revenue which is fixed actually have a very high multiple of up to 20. So 20 is a very common multiple. If you take the revenue, which is predictable, the EBITDA will often be around 10. And for variable revenue, it will be 1 to 3. That means if you put value to the different types of revenue, you can see it's very obvious that it's a better business to transform variable revenue into predictable or fixed revenue. And that's why a lot of people forget and they chase growth. But growth doesn't really add that much value to the company if you do it on top and if you do it only in variable revenue. So that's just one thing to take away from this. So better revenue is more important than more revenue. Now, what we did is actually create a strategy where we improved the fixed revenue. And we improved it from 2 to 18% by getting retainer agreements, going out to customers and say, well, you bought so much, could you commit to that much next year? And people said yes. And sometimes you would offer them a set team, a account team, or you would offer them that we digitize some processes so they get more value for money. But there was no need for big discounts. We also did some software that we sold as licenses, and that improved the fixed a lot. Then we had some very close dialogue with our customers about looking into forecasting and getting more predictability on the revenue. And that increased predictability significantly to 63%. And that means suddenly we only have around 20%, which we have to go out and sell where we have no clue where it's getting from. And that increases the predictability of the company significantly, and also the value. So if you look at this, I'm not going to run through this data sheet, but in close, an increase in the company valuation by 72% in 1 year with the same revenue. So if you had to sell the company, it has increased in value by 72% without increasing the top line. And I think that is really, really important to take away from this. Now, people can ask you, what if I'm not going to sell? Who cares? Well, people who buy companies are not stupid. They buy a company and they pay a premium because they think it's lower risk. If it's lower risk for investors, it would also be lower risk for yourself to create a company with higher predictability. So this is what 2025 is going to look like. Is our budget. We are going to still be on the journey of increasing the fixed. We will be on the journey of getting better insights into our customers, but we also realize that when getting growth, we don't know exactly where it's going to come from. So we're continuing the same journey in the company. And it has been a big win for both the investors and for the employees, but also for the customers. I would like you to show the same data for another company. We had a transaction we did in July last year where we sold a company. And we're part of the sale of the company. And we had into 4 categories of revenue here. But what I think is really interesting to see in this one is that one thing is that it's more predictable. You can see subscription, fixed is very predictable revenue. It's also easier to scale. We found that it's much easier to add to double that revenue because it's already optimized. It's very efficient revenue. But most important, revenue that is predictable and optimized and scale well is also much more profitable. So if I look at a lot of big companies, engineering companies, you'll see many of them, they have an ambition to get like 20-25% of their revenue on subscription or fixed agreement or service agreements. But what we see often is that 95% of the profit of the company comes from those 25%. So by far the most profitable part. So keep that in mind when you're talking fixed revenue. It's not only to have predictability, it's also to increase your profitability. So revenue resilience is a win, win, win. It's a win for the shareholders, the owners. It's a win for the people working in the company because they like predictability. They don't want to go in and out of the door all the time. And it's also a win for the customer because they get predictability in their supply of your services. And if it's not a win for the customers, they won't do it. You can't pressure or bully people into these agreements. It has to be a win for the customer. And I think that's really important. We see a lot of people who have semi-monopolies who try to bully people into this. It has the very opposite effect. Good. So for me, revenue resilience is a strategic choice. You are where you are. You can either focus on more revenue, like Maersk is doing. We want to grow in size because there is also safety and predictability in size. Being the biggest one does matter a lot. Or you can do like CAD design, you focus on better revenue, only on better revenue. Or you can do what Maersk has done really well. They have been focusing on creating predictability, but growing. And the thing is, if you have very high predictability, everything you add on top accelerates your growth. And that's also what we've been seeing at Maersk. So if you combine better revenue as a driver for growth, you'll see that it accelerates exponentially. So that's what I want to talk about very shortly about resilience as a strategy. We created this website, resilienceasastrategy.com, where you can go into details, you can see the tools. There's a lot of videos explaining the concept in details and how you can work with resilience in your company. Lastly, one of the tools that you'll find is the 7 characteristics for defining companies with high resilience. So what are the characteristics? And those characteristics we have built into the AI model. And that's all the examples I've ever used have been used to train the AI so that we can now give AI advice. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Michael. This has been an amazing way to create some context as to what we're about to see now, which is the face-off between Michael and his AI twin and our case study, which is Askwire with CEO Pavlos Loizou. So let's begin that. You know, we always do this where they say never actually do a live demo. So Pavlos, I don't know if you are in the same kind of situation as me, but I always do live demos. And
I'm dedicated with my AI partner here. You know, it's
amazing. All right. Hopefully the elephant helps you get some great answers. But we're going to challenge you. So I'm going to use now Rapid Visual, and there's a lot of features in there. We're just going to focus on one. That's a lie. 2, which is the business model itself and the particular AI twin from Michael, which we call a strategic lens. So you go to Rapid Visual AI, and then once you log in, obviously I've created already a space for us, so you don't watch me type. But here's a quick little onboarding as to how would you go about starting this. And there's a special offer that comes at the end of this webinar. So if you're watching with interest, there's a discount. Stay all the way to the end. Now, if I was to create Pavlos' business model from scratch, I'll go to creating new business model. And I'll type here, Askwire. I'll just call this draft. And I'm going to create the business model. So what do I have? The business model canvas, but it's empty. How can I get there faster? So we've built a tool that allows you to import your business model. If you have a picture or a screenshot of your business model canvas, that's one way to do it. Or you can use ChatGPT to generate the business model in ChatGPT and then basically copy paste this prompt, put it in there. It'll give you a file from ChatGPT so you can load it. And basically, obviously, I've done that in preparation for the webinar. So now we have the file that ChatGPT has given me, which is BMC Askwire. I open that and click import. And what I have going on here is the business model of Askwire as seen by ChatGPT, which sees Askwire's website. So in some ways, we've had a lot of people come to us and say, this is an interesting way to do a brand audit to see what does the AI or the world see when they investigate my business. Is this accurate? Is it not? And in this case, Pavlos and team have done a pretty cool job on their website building something that actually reflects the core elements of their business model, minus some color coding. And color coding is super important in AI land because it signals relationships. So instead of you watching me do the color coding, I already have a business model, this one here, that I've polished a little bit by changing some of the colors and the relationships around those particular stickies that you see on the screen. So now, here's the thing. We have a case study already digitized, but let's actually confirm if it is true. Pavlos, join me in this conversation as we explore your business model. And let me just start by kind of pointing out some of the stuff that we see here, which is you have customized data solutions that you offer to data-driven financial and real estate professionals. Yep. You have detailed property and market data that you're targeting developers for. And then you have First Sight, a platform called First Sight that you're targeting real estate agents and small-scale investors. Let's take them one by one to create the context of your business and also the context of the revenue. So we'll do that sort of golden triangle, I like to call it. Revenue, customer segment, and value proposition. And we'll focus on that. We're not going to look at the backstage right now. Then we'll start invoicing you. So let's begin with the first one. So you have customized data solutions for data-driven financial and real estate professionals. What's the 10-second pitch of this particular value proposition?
Okay, so when it comes to real estate, you have different segments. So banks, insurers, but then you go down to developers, investors, and then agents. And then the segment we actually don't target, which is individuals, so retail. So when it comes to customized data solutions, this is us feeding data to probably a bank or an insurance company. So we feed them with our data, which they integrate in their systems to improve their decision making. like we do with Hellenic Bank in Cyprus, CNP Insurance in Cyprus. We have Attica Bank in Greece. So it's a data feed mainly from us to them.
Is this decision making when it comes to, am I going to give this loan, or what kind of decision?
So it's data when it comes to that relates, typically it relates to, if it's a bank, it's transaction volume pricing and type of real estate. So it allows them to see the liquidity of different types of real estate in a specific market, but also pricing. So we have an automated valuation model, the classic AVM, which automatically prices real estate. So that would be banks. And then when it comes to insurers, it has to do with environmental risks like floods, wildfires, earthquake zones, and then the cost of rebuilding, the reconstruction cost of the property. So in that way, they know what risks they are exposed to, but also to ensure that the property is properly insured.
Okay, got it. So, I mean, I can't imagine they're surprised when they see the platform and that type of data and general rich insight that they can generate. So that's for banks, insurance companies. What about developers? What do they get out of this?
Yeah, so developers is actually quite cool. So what we've done, and this is a Cyprus specific project, which now we're evolving with AI actually, but in essence, we go, so we downloaded all the data from the land registry. So when new construction activity begins, either through us collecting data on town planning zones, or actually seeing construction activity starting through aerial photography, we would mark in the system that on this land parcel, XYZ developer is building project C, right? Mm-hmm. So every month, as we get new data coming to us from the land registry on transactions, we map them on that specific project, and what that allows us to do is we know how many properties that specific developers have sold in that project, if they are 2-bed, 3-bed, size, et cetera, et cetera. So in turn, we aggregate all of that information and we feed that effectively to their competitors. And what that allows them to do is that for their own sales team to benchmark their performance against everybody else, but also for the investment team that is looking to buy new types of real estate, to see where they need to position themselves in terms of pricing, properties, et cetera.
Okay, so I imagine you're talking about medium to large developers or progressive small scale developers that actually have data as part of their strategic thinking. Okay, so that makes sense. So you're basically allowing them to make better decisions, and that's what you're selling to them. But then there's this other thing that came out, because Pavlos is not a new user to Rapid Visual. We started using Rapid Visual in its early days, doing some use cases, and Pavlos was one of the first. And in that meeting, this thing came about. Can you tell us a little bit about First Sight, and what does it look like from a job to be done of your target audience, which is the real estate agent and investors?
Yeah, thank you for that. Exactly. So about 9 months ago, when we were the guinea pig of an earlier version of Rapid Visual, when it came to jobs to be done, what we realized, or what you and the software showed us, was that actually estate agents have a whole different need. What they need is reliable information, but it's more about being up to date. So they wanted, like the name says, first sight. They want to be the first that have the information available. So again, we have your classic map and a BI tool that visualizes what's out there in the market. You've got transactions on the one side, but then every 24 hours we go and crawl websites of agents, banks, and non-performing loan servicers, aggregators, etc., and we feed that to the platform. So we've got transactions on the one side, asking prices and rents on the other. And then you as an agent, what you would do, I've got 10 clients or 12 inquiries, whatever it is, I would log them into, I would create my client profiles, and then every time a new property that fits those profiles is found, identified by the system, it just feeds me that information and says, look, I found the property that Paris wants to buy. So that's a good time for you to go and pitch it to them, and you are the first to know, because exactly we have this access to all of these thousands of data points.
I like how you mentioned me specifically, because when we were having that conversation, I said, but what's in it for me? If I'm looking to buy a house, you have all the data that I would need to actually get there first sight, right? Be there first to put in an offer or whatever. And then we clicked on this button here, the plus, that basically allows the model to generate, based on the rest of the context you created, what are other possible value propositions that I can create for you based on your key resources and what are the key activities that you do and the partners that you have. And First Sight was one of the things that popped up, and so we started discussing it, and there we are now with an actual value proposition. The product is built, and Pavlos and team are selling it. So now, great, we now have an idea of 3 distinct value propositions with 3 different audiences. Talk to us a little bit about, you have obviously a subscription, which is great, the holy grail of a business model. It's I call it the sleep and make money business model. And then the customized solution fees. Just a few brief words about those.
Of course. So until now, or until recently, what we had is a pure subscription model. So come to us. This is the package. You subscribe, and it's typically it's an annual contract with a built-in auto renewal. What we are beginning to change now that the platform has evolved, and also we're beginning to learn a bit more, is to try and customize to the specific client, not the platform per se, but perhaps the dashboards that they see to be more suitable to how they like to view the world and the market. Step 1. So it's customization on the BI side of things. And then the second, which we only just started doing about 3-4 months ago, is giving the user the ability to upload their own data onto the platform. And then obviously at that point, we're also able to cleanse their data in order to be able to import them, connect through API with theirs, and that provide a more, a single point of truth in which they can use the platform.
More. I'll stick on that. I love what I heard there, because you just said upload their data on our platform, and that to me is going back to the 2007, 6, 7 iTunes, and me putting my MP3s on there, and I never wanted to get out of there after that amount of effort. So you cleanse the data, you do sorts of stuff. You know what? Enough for me. Let's get Michael here to actually have a conversation from the experts to the entrepreneur. How can you investigate the resiliency of your revenues? Michael, you're on.
Hello, Pavlos.
Hi.
So first of all, I've just looked at your business model, and I want to compliment you on it. It's a very strong business model. It's also one which is quite resilient. Doesn't mean I don't have any proposals for you, but I think you have a very strong benchmark, so to speak. If I had to challenge you in a couple of things, you mentioned here lastly how you are building customer-specific solutions on top, and I think that's actually very strong. And one thing that we've seen in characteristics is that if you get the customers to co-develop these solutions, and they actually may even fund it for you, co-fund it, then you get a very close relationship to customers, and it becomes like an ongoing project. And the good thing about that is if it's customer funded, it's ongoing, it also ties in the customer a lot. And at the same time, it gives you a lot of information and code that you can use with other customers. So that's one place that I've seen this co-development as a very strong way to create resilience. Another thing that I noticed on your business model is that you have a lot of customer segments, I would call them stakeholders, that have something in common, but they're not necessarily talking to each other. And what I've done in similar situations is actually create a community. Because what we know from resilience, if you create a community as the first one, you can become like a thought leader in that community. And you can bring people together, and they would co-develop with you in that community. You can be the spokesperson of that community towards the suppliers of data, towards the government to get data. And that can bring you into a very unique position. We've seen that communities, of course, you see it around brands, but we also see it around technology. We have in Denmark a company called Umbraco, and they managed to create that position where people just love them. And they have tattoos on their underarms from the brand and so on and so forth. And I can see Ask Wire could fit in. So that's a couple of things. So the community and the co-creation, I think, would be really strong points to build on. And then, of course, I don't know the details of your subscription model, but one thing to do on subscription is always, if you have this co-development, it's easier to have longer contracts because you have invested, they have invested. It's easier to get, instead of just 1 year, you could get maybe 2, 3, or 4, 5 years contracts. We worked with a company, OS, in Australia. They have 10-year contracts. It's not for everybody, but that creates a lot of resilience because Donald Trump is both come and gone in 10 years. So that would make you much more resilient to economic and political fluctuations.
Michael, regarding this co-development, this is development of I would say customizing the interface for the specific client. So you could turn around and say, look, we have normal subscription that is, say, I don't know, 1,000 euro, and it's a 1-year contract, or you can upgrade, have a higher tier, and that unlocks the ability for us to build some features for you. And so on and so forth.
For example, you mentioned BI. So maybe you create BI functionality based on a platform they already have, and you co-develop a solution there. It might be that in the same industry, insurance, for example, somebody else uses the same platform, and you already have that piece that you can then reuse at a different client.
Okay.
So you co-develop different applications going into these industries. I think that is something that I've seen done, which is really strong. And of course, the APIs, because across industry, a lot of people will have the same systems so that you can reuse the APIs. And it's really nice if they're customer funded, because we can see that customer relationships become stronger if you co-create. Then it's not only a business transaction, it's actually us working together to create something really strong. So,
and this might come with the community. How
Yeah.
do you do it? I mean, okay, I'm guessing is writing articles, being an advocate on social platforms, and
inviting people in the forums. You create an event. You have a lot of different nice events here in Cyprus. Create an event, invite the first 30, 50 people in, and make an agenda where you talk
I
about.
really don't need to interrupt, but I have to say Pavlos already does halloumi nights.
Okay, but a little more professional events, let me say like that. Where you your customers in to talk about.
Halloumi has its own, sex
I know.
appeal. Yeah, but okay, fair enough.
No, but talk about how you could actually strengthen the relationship between the stakeholders you already have, how you can get more data, and how you can work more efficiently with the government, so that you, as a group, actually becomes a force. And that's what I've seen work. And it also, you will find new ways that people will start collaborate, which you never thought of, but which they start thinking about, and then suddenly you are in the center of that. So it's like, I don't know if you know Lego, but Lego is for kids. And right now the fastest moving segment is adults, because they created Lego Masters. And suddenly all men think it's really nice to be part of a group where we build cars and bridges and so on and so forth. So,
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
yeah.
By the way, I see some question or a hand up. If you have questions, please drop them in the chat and we'll have a Q&A session at the very end. Okay, how about we park it here and then, let's see. Let's bring your AI in the picture, because you're too big when you're standing next to me.
I'm standing out of the picture.
So here's what, by the way, just to mention, Pavlos, we're in Cyprus, and in Cyprus, when we sell a product, there's this feeling I think that we get, I don't know if it's a Mediterranean culture, that we're lucky that we sold, and somebody, we look at the relationship of customer supplier in a very different way than I think you do in the Nordics, where, if you're a supplier, you're precious. You're there because you're supplying value. So to invite people into community and get them to say, let's continue to build value together, become my advocates, right? It's something that to us is really foreign. So I think there's a lot to learn from that, to say that we give you value, you give us value, we're in this together, what can we do more? So I think that's just amazing, a co-development and community. But beyond those two, what else can we do? All right, now, so you don't get chopped off, you can come a little bit closer to me. Let's have a look. So what we're going to do now is show you Michael's AI twin. How? So there's a feature inside Rapid Visual that's called strategic lenses. And once you go in, you'll see resilience as a strategy, as one of the lenses that's been trained with all of Michael's thought leadership on this topic. And hardwired behind the scenes is multiple AI agents built by our CTO, Matthias, who's basically had fun bringing all these AI agents into a community to have a deep conversation around your business model. And so what happens is that you go into this lens and you let it run, but it does take maybe 3, 5, sometimes 10 minutes before it's finished. And the reason for that is if you're familiar with ChatGPT's deep research, that takes a lot longer, right? So it takes a lot longer to actually have this conversation. And we've pre-run the actual lens so we don't wait together. And you can see a little bit of red and pink, but that's a good place, Pablo, because that means we can do improvements in your resilience. So the score is signifying how well are you doing in the different factors. So Michael has 7 dimensions like he showed before. I'm going to pick one, maybe prepayment, to get us started. And what happens is that you see the key question that's being asked by AI. And the question is, do customers pay for services before or after delivery? Then the AI looks at what you have and gives you a score from -3 to +3. And it seems like we're now scoring at -2. So what could we do to improve this? Now I'm going to go through this first one with you. I'll read it out loud, and then I want to hear Michael's opinion, editorial around what the AI suggested. So here it says, neither the customized solution fees nor the subscription fees streams specify that payment is collected before delivery, which is true. It's not represented in the sticky. Yeah. Customized solutions are likely invoiced after the work is done. So the AI is making an assumption here. And if that's the wrong assumption, you go and correct that sticky, because the better, as you know better than anybody else, the better the data that goes in, the better the data that comes out. And subscription billing timing is also unclear, which exposes the business to cash flow risk and requiring investment to deliver its services. The advice it gives is introduce clear upfront payment terms for all the customized work. For example, 30 to 50% deposit before the project kicks off. And knowing what I know as a board member, you already kind of go in that range for a down payment. Convert subscription offerings to annual or multi-month prepaid plans with discounts to incentivize the prepayment. And finally, implement milestone-based billing for large projects to secure partial payment before each phase. So this is the 3 pieces of advice. But then final thing that the lens does is it basically says, if I was Michael, what is the shift that I would do to your business model? And it says, I would get rid of this sticky, and in its place, I would put customized solution retainer, and I would get rid of this sticky, and I would put annual prepaid subscription. So it clarifies the language that you put on the sticky, which obviously it basically is a strategic conversation, right? So it says, you do all that. For subscriptions, you can offer an annual prepaid plans at maybe a 10 or 15% discount. And then it goes into a bit more detail. If you choose to apply the shift, what this will do now is it'll create a duplicate of your business model, and then you can take that and have that conversation with your leadership team to say, hey guys, how can we make that possible, right? So that's basically it. But first, let's hear from Michael. What do you think? Did we do a good job cloning you?
I would say I couldn't have put it much better, actually. It's exactly what I would have suggested. The only thing that I've noticed that my twins sometimes suggest a little bit more than me are discounts. I'm not much of a discount guy, so I don't see that as
Michael, don't worry.
I don't see that as a driver for cooperation, but it is a tool in that toolbox.
As you're speaking, Matthias is taking notes. Stop discounting so much.
So yeah, but very strong input, I think.
Any comments from you, Pablo, about what you've seen? Is it already something that's in motion, or is it interesting to explore?
Look, clearly on the website, and this is sort of, ChatGPT that built them all, the canvas and whatever, wouldn't know how we price. We already do that. So we have, there would be an upfront fee and then milestones when we build a customized solution. And then, typically we would charge annually in advance. Or if the contract is of a more sizable nature, we would do quarterly payments. So in advance.
Yeah.
Always. So yeah, we're already implementing that. And we don't do discounts. What we have started doing now is thinking about, actually, we don't give a discount, we extend the term. So let's say you sign for a 1 year, we'll give you 13 months. Right, so we do the discount that way, right? So we keep the amount the same. We'll give you 1 month more for free in certain cases. But we haven't, like I said, we don't really like discounts. We think it undermines the whole relationship, because, what I tell my guys when they start having conversation with somebody who is in real estate and is price sensitive over a few hundreds of thousands of euros, you're talking to the wrong guy. Or girl, right? It's such a big industry. The margins are huge. Most of these guys are dealing in millions. why if they're haggling with us over peanuts, they're going to be a pain in the butt to have them as a client. So I'd rather not deal with them.
Yeah, I know, and I 100% agree, and it also varies based on industry, right? So in our case, Rapid Visual is on a subscription plan, but if you buy the monthly versus if you buy the annual, there's a small incentive there for you to buy the annual, and people are kind of used to that. It depends on the value that you give, on the price point that you have. Like you said, if you're kind of being stingy about 100 or 200 euros, but we're talking about millions in value, then you're talking to the wrong guy. So let's do one more.
Yeah.
Comment? Okay,
So
let's do one more. So which one would you like to do? We did prepayment.
Well, I'm surprised that there are no greens. That worries me more, to be honest.
Well, but that's the thing, right? If we were actually polishing it to actually put the real information about what you have for prepayment, it would actually be moving. And you can do that. You can do that.
But I think it would be interesting to do the code development, which I talked about.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. All right. So there's no evidence of structured code development, as we know. Customer financing across customer relationships or key activities. So all interactions focus on delivery and support. All right. So the advice is establish formal code development programs with strategic clients to co-define and prioritize features. Create a customer advisory board to gather input. That's a pretty cool suggestion.
Yeah.
Validate priorities and secure commitments.
They pay upfront.
Okay.
Yeah, they co-finance the development. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
And that's the introduce co-development retainers or financing tiers tied to feature investment or and early access. So basically, it suggests a new revenue stream here, which is co-development retainer fees. It suggests a co-development program as part of your customer relationships. It suggests a key activity, which is collaborative development sprints. Then practically covers your business model elements that need to be tweaked so you can offer this particular advice.
Yeah. That's what I tried to say, but it's said more explicit and structured here. Yeah. And the only thing that I added is the community. I think we underestimate the personal relationship created in a community where people meet up and create relationships.
Yeah.
And that should have been in there as a customer relationship also. But the rest are really strong. Yeah.
It's not a separate dimension, right? No, it's not. A community and fans.
Yeah.
There you go. So you have the community over here. So again, all the dimensions, all the know-how of Michael Wilkins is found in this strategic lens. We've already battle tested this and sold to quite a few clients who are basically trying to access Michael's brain on the go as they try to strategize with their board of directors or their strategic executive team to kind of have a conversation around revenue resilience. At this point, I'll re-invite you back for the Q&A, but I'll close the debate or the undressing here. And thank you, Pavlos, for featuring your company as we spoke about revenue resilience and your business model. And at this point, I just wanted to quickly cover what I promised from the beginning, which is by joining this webinar, what you have unlocked is a special offer that we're putting out to our audience here, which is 20% off either the 1 month or annual license to Rapid Visual with a 1 month free access to the Resilience Strategic Lens. Now, as you can imagine, the access to the Resilience Strategic Lens and other lenses that we have also on the platform is an add-on, and it's of incredible value to companies. So you have access to that lens for 1 month if you subscribe to Rapid Visual today until the May 15th is the deadline. So the coupon to use when you're in the checkout process is Resilience Webinar 20, but ResWeb 20. So that's basically the coupon to use. And you'll also receive that in an email that will follow up with the recording of the webinar and so on and so forth. So thank you both to Pavlos and Michael for joining us today. But now is the time to ask some questions or get some questions from the audience to see what else maybe intrigued people as we went through this. So Taz, Victoria, okay. So there's a question from Michael, bring you back on stage. First question is, can the resilience trait be applied to the costs of a business, or is it just the revenue streams? If yes, how?
Yes, it can. And I mean, for the back end of the business model canvas, there's a lot of resilience issues that has to be handled. Cost resilience about capital. I've been in a couple of crises before, the .com and 2007, and one of the first things you do is actually make sure you have enough capital and available. So that is a cost resilience exercise, so to speak. You'll find the same thing on the supply chain. finding the right key partners. So, but what I've chosen to do is in resilience as a strategy is focusing solely on the front end. It doesn't mean the back end is not there. It just means that I think the driver for a company and it's creating value is the front end and the revenue, so to speak.
Well, it's a
But a
question
very good question.
You get this question quite often,
Yeah,
right?
it's a very good question. Very good.
There was a question already in the chat. If you're already a Rapid Visual subscriber, first of all, thank you. And second, yes, of course, you get access to the strategic lens. That's the question. So I've covered that. Do we have any other questions from the audience to Michael or Pavlos or anything about Rapid Visual? Happy to answer that. So question for Michael, why are you using EBITDA and not profit?
You can use both, but I use EBITDA because that's what I've seen mostly used in transactions. So it's more about how you see the finances. I look at the way you run your business. Is your business profitable? The way it's run, taking out major investments, and that's how it's done when you transact businesses. So I'm just following the flow, to be honest with you. But very good question.
Another one also from Michael is a resilience strategy also to concentrate on good users or suppliers, also in terms of co-development, offering more value or getting more revenue from them, the good ones, right? That would also mean strategically not addressing an always bigger customer base, but focusing on better customers or more customers.
So we're talking about this Pareto, where you talk 80-20, right? And I think resilience comes into that you want to focus on strong relationships. You want strong commitments. And the people who want to do strong relationship and strong commitments will be your 20s. So your close cooperative partners, both on the customer side, but of course also on your supplier side. So it's a big yes. It's exactly what is it joins very well with that.
Cool. Are there specific industries? Oh, go ahead, Pavlos. Yes.
No. I just wanted to make the point exactly that Michael said, or that it's exactly the opposite view that venture capital funds take when it comes to funding startups, because it is what we find, right? Because our model is B2B, long sales cycle, boring. It's insurance. It's slow to get them and have them on board. And but then when we sit in front of a VC, they're like, no, we hate your model. Who cares about this predictability of revenue and the fact that you're integrated? We want to see this. We're like, guys, okay, JK, well, nice. You can, go crazy and bring people on board, but then, the easy they come in, the easily they can disappear. But it's, I think that's, and I wanted your view on that, on how, your investors drive the decision-making of the management team when it comes to, allowing you, let's say, to build resilience in this manner.
What I see in venture companies, and especially in B2B, where I also do focus, is that they love resilience. They love predictability. So they pay a large premium for predictability. If you can combine predictability with growth, those two combined actually just accelerates it a lot.
Yeah, but maybe it's a startup situation, right? The startup mode, you want to see growth first, traction, validation.
Yeah, it's true. And also a lot, if you are B2C, people are looking for your traction, because if you can't create traction in the beginning, it's a big problem. It's a bit different in B2B.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. It's a good point.
Final question. Are there specific industries where revenue resilience strategies are more critical?
I think where you are in industries where you have a lot of projects, where it comes in big lumps, that's also where you see that people have cycles, things going up and down a lot. So anything you can do to lower those cycles, I think is really valuable. But as an accelerator, it works either way. And if you can create growth at the same time, it's just exponentially value creation.
Amazing. Guys, it's been fun for me. It's been awesome to bring friends over to have this conversation. I want to thank you, Michael, and thank you, Pavlos, both of you. A big round of applause. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to leave and let Taz close. A couple of questions for the audience, and we're done in 2 minutes. Thank you, everybody, for joining from my side. The NPS score is already on the screen. Over to you, Taz.
you again. NPS question already on the screen, which is our last Q, and you're giving the A, so we appreciate that. It looks like everyone almost there, just a few more people. In the meanwhile, as promised, we do have a webinar coming up next month. Slide's not working for a sec. And I will basically put up a QR code for anyone who's watching this on recording, just so you can quickly scan that code and find yourself on that landing page. Other than that, if there are any other questions, now is the time to throw them in the chat. If not, once again, thank you very much. We hope to see you in 1 month's time at our next webinar. Until then, we bid you adieu.